Today we have Ellen Schell, the legal director from the Legal Project, here to speak with us, and Roxanne Gordon, who does Intake Services Coordinator for the Legal Project. Hi, you two. How are you doing today?
Hi.
Hi. Thanks for having us here.
Good. Well, I want to discuss the Legal Project in a little more depth about all the many services you have, who you help, how you help them, who qualifies for your services. Roxanne, why don't we start with you and tell us a little bit about your position and what you do at the Legal Project.
Okay, I run certain programs in the Legal Project. One of them, our biggest program, Legal Clinics, where anyone who has a legal question regarding any issue can call up, make an appointment. It's a free 30-minute consultation with a lawyer just to get your legal advice and know exactly what you can do. Also, I run a bankruptcy program where for people who definitely know they want to file bankruptcy, they either qualify for low or reduced fee representation through our program. Also, there's a first-time home buyers program where if you're looking to buy a house and you're working with an affordable housing agency, you can get a lawyer with us for your contracts, to help you through that process. And we have a legally speaking program where if you're an organization out there who just wants a lawyer to speak about a certain topic to a group of people, you can always call us up and we'll set you up with an appointment.
Wow. You have so many services. I had no idea when I first heard about the Legal Project. And I think I had first seen the posters about your help for clients who are taking action against being sexually assaulted.
Yes.
And then from that, I had seen the legal clinics posted. And you've got them like in 3 counties, right?
Yeah, we do legal clinics 7 times a month. We have Albany, Saratoga, Schenectady, and Troy. And we usually have 4 to 6 attorneys in one night. And it's like 4 or 5 appointments a night, so it's a lot of people being served.
Wow, that's
Yes.
like so incredible. Ellen, what do you do to help people that have been sexually assaulted?
Well, we have a program to provide civil legal assistance. We don't do anything in the criminal arena as far as helping with prosecutions or anything. But often victims of sexual assault will have legal issues that arise. They might need to get a work shift changed or a parking place at their job changed because of a sexual assault that happened. Or they might need to get maybe some locks changed on their apartment because there was a break-in and they were assaulted. And we can negotiate with landlords and employers. We can file family court matters. If there's a family court matter that can be done, we can take care of that. Anything that's not in the criminal world that somebody might need a lawyer to help with, we can try to help them.
Now, so no criminal cases at all?
No.
Okay, and if the person was sexually assaulted, do they have to have had filed a police report in order to come to see you?
No, not for our services. Because there's many, many reasons that people don't want to file a police report or can't. And we can still, sometimes we can still help them with the legal issues that arise out of that don't have anything to do with a criminal prosecution.
So if you've been sexually assaulted, you can call the Legal Project if you need assistance with, as Ellen was just saying, changing the locks, dealing with the landlord, if there's lighting issues around the exterior of their apartment or housing, correct?
Yes.
And many other issues, whether you filed a police report or not. And do you have any length of time that the Legal Project requires that you come in?
No, in fact, I do many of the consultations over the telephone. So that people will call, and sometimes, it's kind of scary, I think, to think about talking to a lawyer.
Yeah.
And so people can call me and they know that I know about sexual assault and that I used to work in a rape crisis center, so I've talked to a lot of victims in my time. And I can give them more legally definitive answers sometimes than they can get from their friends or somebody who knows a lawyer. And so I think that's a helpful service, just to be able to get some legal information and advice sometimes.
I do too. I mean, I think the scariest thing is picking up the phone and calling someone you don't even know. You're not really sure what to ask, and you may feel shame or embarrassment or just unsure of what to ask or where to go for help. So that's why I'm so glad you're here today, so people see Ellen's an attorney, and she will speak with you on the phone. And
Absolutely.
I'm sure Roxanne's available also for any help that you might need in her area at the Legal Project.
Well, if I can just say, I think
Yeah.
that's one of the things that the Legal Project is very good at, is that we give people a way to gain access to legal information they might not get other ways. Because a lot of times people call and they know they have a legal problem. They're not quite sure exactly what kind of lawyer they need to talk to, and that's what Roxanne spends much of her day doing, is talking on the phone to people who are calling for legal clinic appointments and finding out what exactly is it that they have a question about, what kind of lawyer do they need to talk to, and getting that set up. So it's much easier in a way than trying to go through the phone book, figure out if this particular lawyer is the one that can help you.
I know for myself, like I said, I'd seen the posters around first, and then I started seeing the brochures, and I think it was like 2 years later when I picked up the phone and called the Legal Project, and each time I'd called, I had such a friendly person on the phone, and they were like, oh, Ellen will speak with you, and I was like, well, she's our, legal director, so it's like, wow, it's just so much more personable and really, I think, obtainable. Your services were much more obtainable.
I think one thing that's great is, like, if you call us, you always know you're going to have a voice. There's someone there always listening to you, and that's the best thing. That's sometimes what people just need. They just need someone to talk to, and you always have that with the Legal Project.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's a great way that you phrase that. Wow. One of the areas that you deal with a lot is domestic violence also. How does sexual assault play in the whole domestic violence picture?
Well, our program, the whole Legal Project program, actually started out with legal clinics and domestic violence representation.
Oh, originally.
And has grown from there. But in fact, sexual assault is very, very often, probably way more often than we even really know about, a part of the whole dynamic of domestic violence. It's yet another method of control and manipulation, which is what domestic violence is really about. And if you think about how difficult it is just to negotiate the whole idea of sexual relationships when you're in an intimate relationship, and how difficult that can be sometimes, it's a very common method of manipulation and control by someone who's willing to use it against the other person.
Don't a lot of times people that are in domestic violence situations, even if they can accept that they're being a victim of violence, isn't it quite often that they're not willing to accept that they're being raped or having some type of sexual assault? Because it's my husband, it's my boyfriend, he loves me, or whatever. So it's always still looked at as like it's okay, or I don't think it's always viewed as it's a crime.
No, I think it actually wasn't a crime until, at least in New York, until 1984.
If you were married?
If you were married, because the definitions of rape in New York used to say somebody not married to the person who was committing the act. And so
until 1984.
Right, there was a court case, I believe it was 1984, which said that that's not, we can't do that in New York anymore. And now it is a crime, and it's a crime in most states, if not all. But it's still something that people don't think about, talk about, even realize necessarily, as you point out, that it is a crime. And it's very, very difficult to prosecute. Very few marital rapes are ever prosecuted. And that's one of the reasons that someone might want to come to the Legal Project and try to get some legal help in another way. Maybe an order of protection through family court. Maybe some assistance with a divorce if that's necessary. Those kinds of things that you can't get through the criminal arena, but that may be really useful legal interventions for you.
Wow. In the areas of sexual assault and domestic violence that you help with in the Legal Project, what more can you share with the audience about what's available to them or what you do?
Well, we do most of our domestic violence representation through a panel of volunteer attorneys. We have about, I think just over 70 attorneys right now who volunteer in our domestic
That's
violence
incredible.
program.
Great.
It's amazing.
Oh, that's great.
They, make all those attorney jokes out there about how bad attorneys are sound just so lame because they're wonderful people.
And it's all pro bono.
Yeah, they do it for free.
So there you go.
They volunteer their time. All of the attorneys that are at the legal clinics are volunteering their time. We do provide pretty comprehensive services. We can do name changes, social security number changes, any kind of questions that people come with that are related to domestic violence or sexual assault. Frequently we have domestic violence clients or sexual assault clients who end up coming through the bankruptcy program or going through, sometimes the affordable housing program. We try to have as comprehensive a service as we can. And part of the reason we can accomplish that with a few staff is that we have all these wonderful volunteers who have a whole range of different kinds of expertise. So if we've got something that comes in, say somebody comes to me with an employment question, employment is not my area of expertise, but we have attorneys on our board and on our panels where that is their area of expertise. And I can call them up and I can say, I have this client, could you do a consult? And without fail, I can find an attorney to do, something for someone that needs it.
And it's all confidential, correct?
Oh, absolutely.
Client comes in there, she's concerned about her husband coming after her, or boyfriend, or anyone. You keep it confidential and wait until the client, if and when, is ready to proceed publicly in court.
Yeah, one of the things that we're very, very careful about in all of our programs is safety and security. We have a fairly secure location where we are. I mean, it's a public location, but we have good security arrangements there. We realize how difficult it is for people to reach out for that help sometimes. Sometimes it's actually dangerous for them, and we try to recognize that very carefully and protect anyone's privacy to the extent we can. We're all covered by attorney-client privilege since we're attorneys. Roxanne works for attorneys, so she's covered by the attorney-client privilege to the extent possible.
Okay.
And so we're very careful about that.
That's really great. And the legal project's at 6 Executive Park Drive in Albany, right next to Stuyvesant Plaza, Building 6, I think it is, right? Yeah, and the website, which is incredible, I was doing a bit of research on that, is www.legalproject.org, and it's got great links on there, and I think it really spells out all the different services quite well. It's easy to understand and to get information from, so you'll have to look up that website. And why don't we move on to your Battered Immigrants program that you have and talk a little bit about that before we get to affordable housing and some of the other projects that we do.
Well, women who are victims of domestic violence, who are immigrants, who do not have legal status in the United States, are in an incredibly more complicated and difficult legal situation than even your ordinary victim of domestic violence, because if the abuser is the person who has the legal status, the husband who has brought the wife into the country with a promise of getting legal status, he can often use that against her. He can say, well, I'm going to report you to the INS. I'm going to not file these papers that I need to file to get your green card. And so it's yet another layer of control that can be exerted. And it also takes away the kinds of help that a battered immigrant might be able to access because of her immigration status. So there are a lot of extra difficulties, and we've created a program working with some of our close allies, the Greater Upstate Law Project and our local domestic violence agencies, to reach out to immigrant women and to provide them with legal representation to try to get their own legal status.
Oh, because that's what I was wondering when I first heard about Battered Immigrant Program, and I thought, gee, what are the elements that really make that more of an exclusive situation, or where it differentiates from other people that are being battered? So part was the control over the spouse maybe being deported, or the children were born in the United States. Where's that stand? The language barrier.
Language barriers are a big problem, and we try to, we have outreach people who have some different languages, with Spanish speaking and someone who speaks Arabic and someone, I believe, who speaks Russian. And then we have language line services available so that we can
you do? Okay.
we can do phone consults with people with the language line, which isn't I don't know how it works.
Okay.
It's mysterious
It
to me, but
translates?
Yeah.
you call a number and they have a translator who can
Okay.
translate in almost any
Oh,
language.
really? Hey, Ellen, what is the mission of the Legal Project?
Well, we were started to try to fill a very real gap that exists in people's access to legal services. If you're poor, as the government defines it, you can get legal aid and you can get assigned counsel in family court in some kinds of matters. But if you fall above that level, and that's like really little money, realistically, you're not going to be able to afford to walk in and retain an attorney. And so what we try to do is fill that gap, to provide attorneys who can represent people in these specific areas, domestic violence and affordable housing and bankruptcy, who have not, would not have the ability to retain an attorney otherwise.
Wow. Who do you help and how do they qualify?
Well, each program has different financial eligibility guidelines, and I'm quite certain that I couldn't tell you what those are exactly right now because we keep a chart, and each year it's indexed to the federal poverty guidelines.
Oh, okay.
But we have much higher levels than legal aid does. They're mandated to have no more than 125% of poverty, and we can serve people, depending on the program, up to 250% of poverty with reduced rates or free attorneys.
Wow. Are there organizations like the Legal Project in other places, or is this really a unique model?
I think it's fairly unique because we're affiliated with a bar association, the Capital District Women's Bar Association. There are some bar associations who have pro bono programs, but I don't believe that there are many that are as focused and as extensive in the services that are offered as the Legal Project is.
Oh, wow. Roxanne, why don't you tell us about some of the other services? There's so many of them that you offer and that you coordinate.
Definitely. Well, the affordable housing program, which helps a lot of people, first-time home buyers, a lot of times they just want someone to talk to get them through that process, to tell them the beginning steps. And so they just send me a referral, and they tell me exactly, like they might say, I want to talk to someone about buying a house, or I want someone to help me to do a contract, or sometimes they already have the house lined up and they just need a closing attorney. So it just depends on the situation. But we just help low-income people who probably wouldn't want to pay the $500 to $800 for a closing attorney, get a free or reduced fee attorney.
One of the things I was reading about the affordable housing program, or the way I understood it, was especially if someone's getting a particular type of loan or a grant or something, that you can help explain the language of that and help them work through that if they're getting like a non-traditional bank mortgage, right?
A lot of times when they come through these agencies, they're getting different grants, and so these attorneys are here to help them, to tell them what are in these grants and what are the requirements, and just help them through the process, just to let them know their rights, their legal rights as a home buyer itself.
That's so great, because I have so many friends of mine that, they just are so challenged with that whole buying a home process that it's really overwhelming.
Yeah.
So to be able to contact you would be such a great, kind of reassuring thing. With the affordable housing program, do you help them deal with mortgages that are from a bank, like a traditional loan?
Yeah, some people, they have mortgages as well as the grants. So the lawyers might have to deal with both aspects. So it just depends on each situation and each individual and what their contract is all about.
Okay. So sometimes it's free and sometimes there's a minimal fee, depending on the resources of the individual,
Depending
right?
on how many dependents and the amount of money they make. that's how we decide.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
Oh, okay, about what the fees are going to be.
Yes.
Would you say overall the fees are lower than maybe what a private attorney's fee is?
Oh, definitely.
Mm.
Usually,
yeah.
we have a lot that come in just free. But a lot of times when they're reduced fee, I always say $150, $200. That's what I tell the attorneys, and that's what they usually charge. So that's definitely a big help when buying a house.
I'd say.
Yeah.
And then looking on the other side of things, opposite of like we're buying a house and we're going to move in there, what about bankruptcy and credit, which too often come along with, you know, buying houses sometimes.
Yeah, that's definitely a big program. Sometimes it's a lot of our clients from our domestic violence or sexual assault programs, but we do it every other month, and we take in 21 people for each month. And what they do is they come in and they would speak to an attorney. We have like 3 attorneys that day, so it's a 20-minute session, and the attorney talks to them and tells them about a little bit about the process and whether they file Chapter 7 or 13, and you know they just get a better vision of their like assets, and you know just to let them know a little bit about bankruptcy. Then they will call 2 days later to find out their attorney that will be filing the papers for them.
Now, what about the credit? Then some people can come to you and ask for credit advice, or say they're really getting into a hole. They just took on way too much, and they're getting calls daily from credit card companies and, you know, whomever. They can reach out to you for assistance.
We have a lot of people that come in and they say, I want to file bankruptcy. And I always say, are you sure? If they're not sure, I always say, why don't we do a legal clinic and speak to a bankruptcy attorney to let them know, for them to give them, you know, what exactly they can do. They don't always have to file bankruptcy, so you do want to give them an option all the time. So that's what our legal clinics are there to do.
Oh, so in the bankruptcy or credit, you could help, if they did come there and say, I'm going to file bankruptcy or whatever, sometimes you can, through the legal clinic, you can help guide them into maybe a better way to go.
Some people might decide not to file bankruptcy. Just by talking to a bankruptcy attorney, there might be other choices out there for them.
Because I would think like so many of us just really don't have the information. We're not aware of like how many different places we can go for help. So I think it's great that they can call the legal project to get help with that.
Yes.
As I said before, I saw so many postings too, the legal clinics, and I know you have them in Rensselaer County and Albany County that I know of. And is it in Schenectady County
Troy,
too?
Schenectady, and Saratoga.
Okay.
Yep.
I think that's really great because now the way that works is by appointment.
Yes.
And you have, what, a half-an-hour consultation?
They will call us up, and a lot of times it's one of us answering the phone.
Okay.
We'll say exactly what is going on, what's your problem. We listen to that. Then we said, okay, we can set you up with a legal clinic appointment, and depending on the date of the clinic and what time they're available, we'll make an appointment. And then we'll tell them the address, and they come there. It's a free 30-minute consultation with an attorney. Yeah.
I think that's a great service. It looks like it's a pretty well-used service, too.
Yeah, we generally serve somewhere around 700 people a year in those legal clinics.
Wow. Plus the 21 a month in the bankruptcy and credit. How many do you think in the affordable housing come? Do you have any thoughts on that one?
With that, it's probably around 50 and 70 a year.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Now, you also have Legally Speaking, where you go out and speak to different organizations.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us about that?
We have a lot of organizations that just call us up and say, we want to do a presentation on a certain topic, and I ask the date, the time, and then I'll just go and call up an attorney and say, are you available to do this presentation? And they're always open, always. If they're not available, then I'll just call the next attorney, but I always get someone to do the Legally Speaking presentations.
Oh, so like what if, say, the Chamber of Commerce or a church group even called you up and said, oh, I'd like to have an attorney speak on, what, custody matters. They can call the Legal Project, and you'd have set up a time, of course, mutually agreeable, and have them come out and speak to that organization.
Yeah, we have
that
so many topics: wills,
Oh.
trust estates, you know, custody, divorce. You have so many topics.
Could someone get a list of those topics from you guys?
They can always call us up and tell us a topic.
Okay.
You know.
And you'll send
Yeah.
someone out.
I think it's safe to say that we could probably find someone to do almost any
Definitely,
topic that had
yeah.
to do with the law, because we do have so many attorneys who volunteer with us, and they're just so willing to go out and do these things to help educate the public. And so I really think it's safe to say almost anything that related to the law, we could probably find somebody to come out and talk to your group.
Wow. You have a newsletter. How can people get that?
Well, we don't do a separate newsletter. We do a column in the Capital District Women's Bar Association newsletter that comes out once a month. But they can also see copies of that online at our website. There are linked to the to each newsletter on the website.
And you've got to check out the Times Union too. I think it's Thursdays.
No, it's changed to Mondays now.
Monday,
every other
on the
Monday.
website, so Thursday. Every other Monday. Okay, the Legal Project has a column called Ask the Legal Project, and you submit questions to the Legal Project, and they answer them in the Times Union. It's great having you guys here. Just for the last quick minute, I want to say that you do accept donations to the Legal Project.
Always.
You're also looking for volunteer attorneys for the Legal Project, and as always, you're open and available to people in need of the services that are offered by the Legal Project. www.legalproject.org. They're at 6 Executive Park Drive in Albany, 12203. And Roxanne, it was so great to meet you and have
Nice
you
to
here.
meet you too.
Thank you.
Thank
and
you.
Ellen.
It's good to be back.
Okay. Bye-bye.